G'day everyone, I'm Rangadad, Nathan, to others. Just a quick update. I've had a pretty volatile day, really. Big move. Kind of surprising, really, for a number of different reasons. Obviously, on the daily, we're still in the bullish control zone. There's still potentially a bit to go on the daily. I'd kind of be expecting this to top out around this level, though. Like if we get back to, let's just go to the weekly, so it's all in one chart. Like we've just gotten really close to these all-time highs. All-time high total was 69,138. This is on Bybit, and we just topped out just then at 64, so potentially another 5k to go. This would be the first time in Bitcoin's history that it's actually reached an all-time high, or gotten this close at least to an all-time high. Let's just go to historical. The first time ever it's gone to an all-time high before the halving, for a start, let alone before the major bull run. This was the 2017 high at about 20k. As you can see, it didn't even get close to that. The peak before the halving was 13k. And if you do retracements, that's between what's in the golden pocket of the fib zone. So this is quite unprecedented to have this sort of run. Now, you do have, these sort of runs on general markets, and as you can see, the main markets topped out around the same time last time, but they've actually gone to an all-time high already. Potentially a bit more to go looking at the weekly. It's an interesting chart. Just go to the S&P, same sort of deal. Crap, I don't have the ticker for the equal weighted S&P. Anyway, I think it's sitting just above previous high now as well. Memory. What is it? GPR, I think. No. There you go. I'll figure that out for the next one. So, yeah, look, everything's still bullish. Whether we're at a peak yet or not, it's hard to really say. US dollar looks like it's turning over, potentially on the way down. It's still in the bearish control zone, as far as I am concerned. Even on the daily, it's looking like it's probably down is more likely in the medium term. So if the dollar does come down, then you would expect equities and even gold to keep going on a bit of a run. At this level, the S&P is kind of, or the NASDAQ is a little bit flip-floppy for me in terms of it seems to be struggling to make a new decent high. It is very much in the overbought sort of zone, so a pullback into this 200 daily EMA would probably be not a bad thing to look out for, which would probably get you back into this high here as well. If we do have that, that would be in line with previous sort of Feb-March drawdowns over in election years with a sitting president running. So expect somewhere around that 16,000 mark, maybe. But there is just so much liquidity coming into this market from people that have been on the sidelines previously. There's a lot of FOMO, and when retail starts to get the FOMO in, there's so many calls in the market as well. And with options calls, typically people offering the options calls are having to buy to actually cover those calls. And that kind of puts things into a vicious cycle potentially as well, but doesn't mean it can't come down. So Nvidia looks again having a bit of a retrace. Actually got it heading into the, that was potentially a start of a bear run for it. So this could be the last gasp before we get a bit of a retrace on Nvidia as well, which is pretty much holding up the whole stock market at the moment. Not a lot of stuff going with it, at least not to the same degree. So good distribution on it today. That's 1.4% down today. So typically that's showing that there might be more downside to come. So yeah, look, again, the S&P, so this here is just a cyclic RSI. I've created some bull bear control rules on it as well. But when you get a contraction of the bands, so the green band and the red band here, when you get that sort of contraction, it's sort of consolidating, ready for a move. And typically when you're above the 50 mark with both bands, that move is typically going to be a retracement or a correction to the downside. So I am looking at that. Bitcoin has actually been leading the market lately, so I'll just put something of interest. So just something of interest is that Bitcoin's kind of been leading this bullish run. I noticed that back here in October last year, and I was like, well, once the S&P started to run, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. The bear market on the S&P seemed to be over, and we've just gone up with both recently. Now, if Bitcoin pulls back and starts to pull back hard, then it could be a bit of an indicator, a bit of a canary in the coal mine for retracement on the S&P as well. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. In terms of, so the interesting thing about this current run as well is bonds haven't really gone with it. They're going sideways, which is still okay. But if these start to drop off and we've still got, like if they break this level here, about 76 for the high yield, and we've still got a high S&P and NASDAQ, then that's a bit of an indicator we're probably going down as well. So TLT still kind of holding. It's probably going to head up from here. If we do get a retracement, I'd expect TLT to come back up and at least test this level. Skew got absolutely crushed. Just gonna the line chart on this one. This here, this crushing of the skew typically precedes a retracement in the markets as well. So again, that's typically an early indicator, but it hasn't really done much yet, which just shows you the amount of bullishness that's in the market, the amount of liquidity that seems to want to go long. It's just holding it up there. Gold. All right, let's go back to candles. So gold, it's not doing bad things on the daily. It's still sort of in a downward trend at the moment. And it's still, we could be headed up from here for gold, but not Gold doesn't excite me at the moment, either way. AUD US dollar is coming down, which is interesting, given that the US dollar doesn't look great. Euro US dollar looks like it might be coming down as well. So, I mean, if these roll over, which it actually, I don't know, that actually to me looks like we could be going bullish for a little while. But if these roll over, then and the dollar goes up, then equities come down. It would kind of make sense, but not a huge amount of confirmed direction either way here. Copper coming down is generally suggestive of a market retracement or correction, or just overall economic downturn sort of stuff. VIX still hasn't spiked yet though, so nothing significant going on there. The 1 day volatility index is starting to spike a little bit, which can be a predecessor for that. For the VIX itself, just go to VIX. Oh, crap, where'd that go? That's annoying. Hang on. So even the VVIX hasn't really done much, so yeah, it's she's a very extended market at the moment. Industrials is actually making new highs though, which is interesting. So it could be seeing a bit of rotation at the moment. IWM still hasn't sort of broken out with a new high here. It was in a pretty massive channel. We're still not back up to these levels here in 21. So we sort of seem to be bumping up against the bottom of this old channel. Haven't really gotten into that even yet. Yeah, 200s. So rest of the like smaller caps still not seeing any huge movement there. The daily bands here are quite contracted, so it is in the bullish control zone, but yeah. If we see a breakout of this level, then we could be going long on them, which could just be part of a rotation, but yeah, again, sorry, this seems a bit wishy-washy, but there's no sort of confirmed breakouts on a lot of this stuff yet. Interestingly, the 2-year, 10-year spread is coming back down. At 200 EMA seems to be an interesting level. Bumping up against that. Again, if this gets back to zero, then I'll be looking for a bigger sort of market, black swan type downturn in the overall market for a long period. But the other one, this one here, so this is Fed liquidity, global Fed liquidity, I think. So that has kind of been dropping off, and again, we've seen the market just keep barreling up through this period where it's been dropping off or going sideways, which hasn't been the case lately. The federal liquidity has been pushing markets higher, or they've been going together. Not the case at the moment. So again, that's sort of another thing that's making me a bit sus on this current run. It's just that the current run seems to be breaking away from all the trends that have been happening recently. So That's why it's suggesting it's probably getting towards being a blow off top. So back to Bitcoin. The one day I wouldn't be surprised if we do actually make our way up a little bit more to reclaim this wick, but typically when we do see big blow off tops on the daily, it's not uncommon to have some decent wicks. So be interesting to see where this one lands, especially in the next 3 hours or so. Back to the 1 hour. I mean, that's a wicked candle. 6,000 basically. High low. 4,000. 5,000, sorry. It's more than $5,500 in one hour candle. That's pretty nuts. So interesting volumes, nothing sort of huge in the lead up to this, but big volume, stopping volume there. Wouldn't surprise me towards the end of the day, in this next 3 hours, if we do make a bit of a retracement back up to here. But I think if that's the case, we're probably double topping. But yeah, as I said, this, even on the hourly, this is pretty overextended. You'd be expecting this to start to work its way down. So yeah, sort of expecting around that 53, 54k in the next couple of days, and then we'll reevaluate what it does around that 200 EMA. That's about all I got for you at the moment. Looks like it's doing the same sort of thing at the moment. It's not really breaking away itself. Interesting, I reached 3,480. It's a pretty good level. Again, we're starting to get into bearish control here on the hourly. But this doesn't necessarily have to last very long, so just be careful around this 50 EMA. It's been a pretty good support on the way up. If we start to sort of break below these 50 EMAs and retest and then go again, then it's probably going to be in a bit of a mean reversion. We'll probably at least hit these 200 EMAs, potentially on the daily even. And just quickly checking, whoa, geez, Matic didn't go with it. Matic had a bit of a run and then did not go with it. That's interesting. Huh. Just look at these on the daily. So these ones about a shit day. Not often you get alts actually struggling like this. Phantom. Very interested to see if we actually get alts running. In fact, they've corrected without much of the pump, a lot of them. Suggests to me that, yeah, this might actually be a decent correction. Very surprised we haven't had a switch sort of into the alts. Very interesting. I wonder if it's because, yeah, here's a hypothesis, just thinking out loud here, that it's potentially because the ETF is on Bitcoin. So the spot ETF could be driving a lot of the inflows to Bitcoin still, which has led to this pump. The blow off top, the selling at the top could be a lot of taking profit of potentially people that aren't in the ETF. because of that, the alts haven't had necessarily the same pump as BTC, and they're more they're feeling the correction without actually getting all the inflows before it. That's a hypothesis at the moment anyway. Be interesting to see how it plays out. But now I think if you've been in this run, now it's probably not a bad time to be taking some profits off the table. All right. I think I'll leave it there for now. Have a good day. Hope this helps.